Jesus, there we go. Ah, excellent, marvelous. Finally. They always catch you halfway through saying it's not on when they finally turn the microphone on. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could just have a few minutes of your kind attention. Thank you for joining us here at what I think is the last Conservative Home event of the conference. If there are any more, they haven't told me. Congratulations on making it this far. Through the rain, the confluence lurgy, all the other things that make conference the once-in-a-year event that it is. We've made it to the end. Thank you very much first to Zilch for sponsoring this event and to OVO Energy for sponsoring the marquee. Over the next few days, we're just going to distract you from your drinks for a few minutes to talk about the fintech sector, which personally, not going to lie, is not something that I, history graduate, know all that much about, but you learn an awful lot over the course of conference, and one thing I have seen time and again in all the events I've done is that actually, no matter how bleak people are talking about vast sectors of the British economy, the fintech sector is an area which is doing well and is identified consistently by all of the guests as a source of strength. And what we're going to hear now is why and what the government can do to build on that success and hopefully make it an even stronger pillar of the British economy. Joining me is Philip Bellament, CEO and co-founder of Zilch, Bim Afalemi, chair of the Financial Services and Markets APPG, and, oh yeah, he's got fans. Did anyone else bring a cheer chorus, or are we going to have to arrange one, really? And Paul Scully, the Minister for Tech and the Digital Economy. So, there we go, yes.
He got way too many.
You've been played, Bim. Right, over to you. What can I say? That's enough from me. Over to you, Philip. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Henry. And obviously to Conservative Home, thank you so much for putting on the event. Really appreciate that. Can you all hear me on this? Is this all right? All right, great. So I'm going to just say a few words. Obviously, we're about to hear from two people much more popular than I am, I can tell already. So, Bim and Paul are going to step up, two MPs that we think truly understand the digital economy and what's happening and changing and how companies like ours can leverage what's going on in this economy to really thrive. But before we do that, just to take a few moments to explain exactly who Zilch are, why we exist today, and more specifically to explain to each of you how we're taking advantage of policy, regulation, fantastic talent and capital in this country to build a £1.4 billion company in the last 36 months. So to start by just mentioning, why do we exist? So the cost of living crisis is something all of us have been talking about. It's been impacting everybody in some shape or form, all right? But something that's interesting is that we don't often think very much about the ongoing consistent cost of credit to customers. And what I mean by this, and I just want to see by show of hands, if you just forget home loans, mortgages, you just think about credit cards and lending, online lending to consumers. A show of hands, how much do you think this costs consumers here in the UK every single year? Do you think it's less than £7 billion? Show of hands. This is just fees and interest. Up to £10 billion? Show of hands. It's costing £15 billion a year. Customers are paying in fees and interest. Right? That's not for the products they're buying. This is just fees and interest. These are made-up numbers by institutions. All right. It's going nowhere. Going to credit card companies and institutions. And if you zoom out for a second and you look at the US and the UK, so Zilch is active in both these markets, it's $150 billion a year. So the last number I'll throw at you, because these are big numbers, it's $400 million every day that we're spending across these two countries, right? That doesn't make any sense. And so Zilch exists to eliminate that problem. So we want to eliminate the cost of consumer credit for good. That is the object. That is why we exist. How do we make this number Zilch? Zero. That's why we have the name. And so really that's where we started and where we began. Now what do? We're in the buy now, pay later space. So I know that that sort of evokes a little bit of a reaction from some people. Everyone's got a view to that. And they should have a view to that. It's a really fascinating space. But there are two interesting things about our company. So it's not just what we do, but it's how we do it that makes our business unique. The first is that we're a regulated firm. All right, so we're regulated by the FCA. In our space, we are the only provider in this country at scale that is regulated today. And that's a major thing to start with. We have been calling not for regulation, we already have it. We don't need it to be changed. All right, what we need is to close the loopholes and the exemptions that others are using right now. That's what we've been calling for. The second thing is our interesting business model. So what we've done is we've found a way to generate revenue from retailers when our customers make use of our product, and we take those commissions and we subsidize the cost of credit to the customer using that revenue. What that means is that customers can enjoy credit at a price point typically reserved only for the wealthy. And we're talking about this in the mass market. And that's never really been done before. Ad-subsidized credit is very unique. So just to explain that a little further, most credit companies have been the same since the 1950s when credit cards came around. For every 100 people they were lending to in the market, they would overcharge people who were repaying, so 30 to up to 100+% APR, and that would offset the losses from the people who defaulted, and they would make a margin in between. This was the model because they are unsophisticated lenders, they don't have access to open banking, policies weren't around to create that access back then, and of course they had no AI, they had none of this machine learning, and so this is how it worked. And it never changed for decades, until now. And so what we're doing at Zilch is, we looked at this and we asked ourselves one question, it seems obvious. What are people doing with the money that they borrow? They're buying something. It sounds so obvious. People don't borrow money and put it in a bank account. They're buying something. And so if you think about that, and you then go and you analyze the cost of sellers, between 4 and 10% of what people are selling is going to advertising and marketing. So what you really have is this strange situation where brands are paying Google, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, billions of dollars and pounds in marketing to get in front of us. We click the advert or we go to the store and we pull our credit card out and we pay quite literally billions of pounds in fees and interest to buy the product. And we felt this was inefficient. So what we've done is we've woven these two together. So we're introducing customers, buyers, to people selling at exactly the right moment, the moment of payment. And we are now saying, give that ad revenue to Zilch, and you only pay for sales. This means that brands are paying far less for sales. We can make that revenue and use it to offset the cost to the customer. And this has already saved our customers £300 million and counting in the last 12 months alone in fees and interest. And just to put that in perspective, that's helped us race to over 3.5 million customers here in the United Kingdom. That's more than 10% of the working adult population in just 36 months. So something's working, which we're happy about. And very quickly in closing, just to wrap this up, how are we doing this? How is it happening? And we can't certainly take all the credit. We have to look at this digital ecosystem and landscape we're in today. Look at regulation, look at policy, let's look at pools of talent and pools of capital. And let's see how that's played into the story. So if you think about regulation, we were doing something so different in credit. Our shareholders and investors were very shocked and surprised when we said, we're going to partner with someone to go and figure out how to launch this. And they all said, who? And we told them, we're going to go to the FCA, the regulator. All right? People were like, that makes no sense. But what happened is we went to the FCA under Chris Willard at the time, and they had this regulatory sandbox. I'm not sure if everyone here is aware. That doesn't exist in other countries. We were able to work with the regulator, tell them about the model. They understood the model, helped us plan this, launch a test case into the market, making sure customers wouldn't suffer detriment if it didn't go right, and then allowed us to scale from there. This is the regulator you're talking about. And we've never seen that anywhere else. So it's a fantastic step forward in the right direction and something the UK is leading. And then you couple that with payment technology and the policies that have allowed this transformation to cashless society and now tap and pay. Obviously, COVID accelerated this. But I think we all get a little upset when you can't tap and pay. Who's putting the card in the machine and putting a PIN code in? I don't actually know the PIN code on my card anymore, right? And what that's done is allow Zilch to scale so much quicker and more sustainably than anything that came before it. We can have a customer sign up it doesn't matter where they are in the country, and instantly we can issue a virtual card to them. They can save it to Apple Pay, Google, Samsung Pay, and begin paying immediately, regardless of where they are. That was never possible before. And so finally, the last two things are talent and pools of capital. The talent is abundant here. I don't think I have to convince you all of that. Some of the best schools in the world and universities producing phenomenal talent, and that's what attracts fantastic businesses to set up here as well. And I can obviously say firsthand, I come from South Africa, moved here 10 years ago, and this was a major draw for me. You want to be here. The fantastic talent creates fantastic companies, and that's brilliant to see. And then finally, of course, at the end of all of this, you need to have capital, access to capital. And I think we need to take a quick moment and realize the UK has the second deepest pool of capital on the planet. Sometimes we overlook that. And when you think about the different types of funding you can access across the spectrum, everything from SEIS to EIS, all the way through to family office, high net worth, ultra high net worth, pension funds, VC, PE, all of this are really deep pools of capital that you can access in a country like this to grow your business. And you have to have it. So it's fantastic to see all of this coming together and allowing businesses like ours to thrive. So just to close off, I would say we were having a chat with Julia Hoggett at the LSE, and we were talking about some companies we may lose. They might go somewhere else. They may not list on the LSE. And she said something we quite liked. She said, why are we focusing so much on what we might lose? Why aren't we focusing all of our energy on what we've got, right? And that's the message I want to convey to you all. We took this back to the office. We speak about this all the time because as the business grows bigger, some of our teams say, wow, but we've got so much to lose. You know, we can mess this up. How much do we have to lose? And we say, guys, let's not focus on what we stand to lose. Let's focus on how far we've come, what we've achieved today, and get up every morning and we go again. So thank you very much for having us. Really appreciate that. Look forward to what you can say.
Well, Phil, thank you so much for that. And guys, I'm sure you'll all agree with me. That's the sort of positivity we need in this country. And, you know, I was inspired by your speech. And look, I'm a politician, listened to a lot of speeches, and I've heard a lot of speeches on the economy. That was a really excellent summation of what is so fantastic about this country. So thank you for coming here, working with Sean to set up your business, and thank you for making it such a success and giving great opportunities to the hundreds of incredibly bright, intimidatingly bright young people that work in your offices. So thank you for what you do. Now look, I won't detain you for very long because I know I'm the warm-up act for the most popular politician here. But what I want to say two things, okay? And I want you to remember two things. Beyond that, Zilch is great. The two things are this. This country can be even better in the FinTech sector than we are today. We should not rest on our laurels and assume that because Zilch is here doing very well and there are other great companies doing very well, that is enough and that is okay and it will continue to happen. Because what we need to make sure that we do is strengthen our regulatory system, strengthen the operation of the FCA, strengthen the regulations that operate within this sector so that, yes, we leave companies free to innovate and grow and develop, but we level the playing field. And I know the Minister and I talk about this a lot in lots of different contexts, that we level the playing field for all businesses so that it's fair and we do not end up with inefficient distortions created by regulation. Okay. But the second thing, so that's the sort of like negative or slightly difficult, awkward message. The second thing is a positive one. What Zilch is doing is what we should think of as a model for the whole country and the whole economy, particularly with FinTech. It's reducing costs for consumers. It's protecting consumers. It is working out that when you're in a cost of living crisis, affordability for a lot of people on quite basic products is limited. How do we make that easier? But it's also thinking about innovation. It's thinking of new ways to do things, new aspects of our economy that create jobs and create wealth and create prosperity for us all. And Zilch is a model for that. But fundamentally, what all of that does is it grows our economy. Now, we all have different views on the economy. We generally want it to grow. We have different views on how it should grow. The fintech sector in this country is one of our most successful sectors anywhere in financial services, let alone the whole economy. The work of Zilch and other companies in this space with an improved regulatory structure will grow our economy, and that will benefit everybody. And I think that politics over the next 5 or 10 years is going to be more determined on the economy than many people realize. The countries that will succeed are the countries that can harness new technology, protect people, make their lives more affordable, and grow their economies. Zilch does that. This party and this government does that. And I'm very happy to be here to support FinTech, support Zilch, support Phil, support Sean. Well done. And grow your company and list here if you choose to list in the future. I should also say, when it comes to regulation, it's not a very sexy topic. I appreciate that. But when companies like Zilch choose the UK, if and when, choose the UK to list, not New York, not Amsterdam, not Paris. If they choose the UK, they will do that because they have confidence in this country. And yes, they have confidence in the regulator and confidence in our pools of capital and confidence in our pools of talent. So let's make sure that we make it as easy as possible for the new companies of the future to choose the UK to list. Because if they list, that gives opportunity for ordinary people, those of us in this room who are not lucky enough to work at Zilch and own any shares yet. So if you guys want to give out some free, we're all here, okay? It's very easy. Yeah, exactly. Right, I don't have any shares in Zilch, unfortunately. But look, if they, yes, exactly. If companies like Zilch list, it's not just something for the business pages. It's really important why people understand why listing matters. Because what it does is it gives ordinary people the opportunity to own great businesses. And we need much more of it in this country. So with that, I'll finish and leave you with Paul to tell you all the wonderful things he is doing with the Chancellor and Prime Minister. And over to you.
Does that not just demonstrate what a fantastic talent pool we have in the Conservative Party? Bim, that was brilliant. Well done, mate. Bim knows about this stuff. He cares about this stuff. He's well ensconced about it, and this is the kind of input we need to keep having and bring all that talent in, the government of all the talents, to make sure that we remain the party for business, the party for fintech, the party for growing a sustainable economy that everybody can join in. Now, Philip, you said you were worried now that you weren't going to be the most popular man speaking tonight, but what everybody has forgotten about, that Philip, Ryan and Sean and that everyone are sponsoring the drinks. So this is the guy that's actually giving you your wine. So why would you love a politician over that? Guys, thank you so much for sponsoring us today. But, you know, that's a bit superficial because you'll get over your glass of wine, won't you, after a little while, once you've had the next one at somewhere else. But you have just heard a great example that I think you'll find there's however many, how many customers did you say you have? You'll have one more because I love what you're doing. And so I'm going to be looking really into it to see how I can participate in that as well and be one of your customers, because I think what fintech does, what open banking does, what AI machine learning does, the kind of model that is behind Zilch, it really empowers individuals. It empowers people to have more control over their finances, to have be a better consumer, reducing prices, and therefore that's got to be for the betterment of everybody. I was just talking here a little bit earlier on in a different panel when we were talking about open banking, and we were remembering the days of Rumbelows and Granada Television when everybody used to rent their television. Nobody actually owned a television. You just thought like go and pay your amount per week. And then you move forward to payday lenders and that kind of stuff. What these guys are doing, the buy now, pay later, is really flattening that structure to make sure that people aren't getting into trouble when they cannot afford to buy what they need and, in many cases, what they want as well. So that participative approach to the economy is so important and cannot be understated. But you are also part of one of the most amazing dynamic tech ecosystems in the country. And as you heard from Philip there, when he was talking about the depth of talent, the depth of finance, and more of that in a second, I think what you have to understand about the UK, and there's a lot of people talking down the economy in the UK at the moment, and you've seen the figures change as always happens when after a few months, when we knew more about what's happened a few months ago, and our growth figures are now higher than we were, now a better place than we were pre-COVID, despite the naysayers, most of all coming from the Labour Party, who want to talk this country down. We have a tech ecosystem of $1 trillion. That's only the third country to reach that status after America and China. Why? Because of the talent, because of the finance, because of the dynamism. And what you've heard from Zilch is I hear it time and time again from fintech companies and other tech companies, when actually what they're doing, this isn't just something to, how can I make a job lot of money? It's where is a problem? How can I solve it? How can I solve it in a just way that actually allows not just a handful of people to participate in it, but everybody? Because, by the way, if you do that well and you do the participative approach that you've done, your customer base goes up, funnily enough, so therefore your business is better. It's very circular. And so that's what individual businesses, especially the ones that succeed, do, and that's what we need to learn from as politicians. So we do need to work on the fact that in this country, that what we can do to scale up more businesses like Zilch. We're great at startups. We're okay at scale-ups, but we could be better. We could be way, way better. So yes, there is money around, but actually what we need to do, and Bim suggested it when we was talking about listing, we need to make sure that actually more funding can come from this country, that depth of funding that Philip was talking about. Why? Because otherwise, if it's coming from West Coast America, the playbook is an American playbook. And actually then people come on the board as non-executives, et cetera, they will then be saying, come and list in West Coast. The standard thing is you do your Series A, Series B, Series C, whatever, however many, and then, by the way, Series D comes from West Coast America. You go further up in the chain, you need more money. Oh, you don't want to do it in the UK. Come over here. We understand tech. Well, I tell you what, we have 162 unicorns that we've created in this country. We've created them. Some of them have gone overseas. Valuations have changed, but overall the creation was 162 since 2010, and that is because of the talent that we have here. And out of those, 8 cities, towns and cities around the UK are host to 2 or more unicorns. So this isn't just a London phenomenon. It is London-centric, clearly. But nonetheless, this is going on. This innovation, this inspiration is going on right up and down this great country of ours. So look, I'll finish by just saying a massive thank you to you guys for sponsoring us tonight. I just say a massive thank you to the fintech sector, who are not only just solving some of the problems here in the UK, but actually because of the systems, those sort of micro transactions that you can have in many cases, are actually solving many problems around the world, in the developing countries as well. So that is the future. It's not just about the UK economy, but that's massive, but it is about solving world problems. So our society is better, our country is better, we are more prosperous as a result, but that is so much driven by high impact, high growth companies like Zilch and those 162 unicorns that do great things and inspire other entrepreneurs in the future. I'm going to get your 5-point shopping plan, at your shopping list that you're going to give the Prime Minister, and I will drive those through as well, because we do need to act. We need to respond as a government to make sure that, first of all, by the way, businesses are not just units of economic activity. Entrepreneurs are risk takers. We need to reward risk, but we also need to recognise that there can be very many more Zilches and you guys have got a long way to go to growth as well. So thank you very much. Goodbye.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes it feels a bit superfluous to thank Zilch again for sponsoring this evening, but I will. Thank you guys so much. And that's it. Please eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy the rest of conference. Have a good evening. Thank you. This is Conservative Home out, I suppose.